Hey everyone. Those of you who are joining me from the aborted Facebook live stream, I want to give you a special shout out and thank you for following me over from that polluted, fetid platform over here to still polluted, but at least functioning Twitter, Periscope live stream, as well as YouTube. Thank you all for joining me. It's been a while since I did a live stream. I sort of needed to gain my composure after a really crappy week last week. I've talked myself to death about the events of Bloody Sunday in Denver, but it's about more than that. We lost several patriots last week. And there's that fly. If you joined me over from the Facebook, you know that I've been trying to swat this fly, which I am calling Jerry Nadler, because Jerry Nadler the fly is so freaking annoying. Look at my fly swatter. That clown troll Jerry Nadler, of course, is now holding a kabuki hearing, all for show, and you just want to swat the fly and smash it. Anyway, we lost 3 really precious patriots last week, and they hit me hard. Those of you who are original Free Republic commenters and account holders will remember Lloyd Marcus. He was the voice. I am so old that I remember the days when grassroots conservatives would go out in full force like they did at the Gathering of Eagles in 2007 to show their support for the troops, and to do so with no fear, facing the angry mobs of Soros-subsidized anarchists. Do I have any Free Republic commenters and OGs out there? Lloyd Marcus was a singer, incredibly talented patriot. He called himself the unhyphenated American. He died unexpectedly, terribly, of a heart attack. His wife, Mary, was with him. I believe she was trying to get him to the hospital, wasn't able to save him in time. And you know that he is looking down upon us. He was a godly man, always cheerful. There's that fly. And I was honored to write the foreword for his first book, his memoir. I think it was called Confessions of a Conservative, Unhyphenated Conservative. You can find that on his website or through his Facebook page. His wife is commenting there and posting over there. God bless his soul. We also lost a friend of mine who was such a stalwart spirit for free speech, for life, for conservatism, Christianity, Mike Adams. And I would see him every once in a while here in Colorado Springs over the years. He taught at Summit Ministries in Manitou Springs. I ran into him at the grocery. We'd always do selfies. And we always vowed that we would do the Manitou Incline together. Those of you who know me know that I'm a fanatic. I've been an addict of this challenging mountain trail, iconic mountain trail, southwest of Colorado Springs. He was fit, and I believe that he had a much faster time than me, even though he was he had a couple years on me, and we never got to do that, and I regret it deeply. And it's a reminder to take each day as if it is your last. Do the things that you promise that you say you're going to do. The mob was relentless and wore Mike down, wore him down. Some of you may know that he was a professor at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, one of the original columnists at Town Hall back in the day, 20 years ago, when I was also regularly featured there before I was canceled. And he stuck up for his religion, his faith, the sanctity of life and his friends. When I was fired last fall by Conservatism Inc., Mike Adams was clarion in his rejection of that and said that there is no way in hell that I should be fired. And I appreciated that, especially given everything that he himself was personally going through on campus and the attacks from his fellow faculty members, administrators, the local media there, the student body. It takes such a toll on people. He had extraordinary grace and extraordinary faith. And it's really, really important to know for people who are going through these things that they are not alone in doing it. So the third person that we lost last week was a man I had never met, but had followed his work. And of course, his work was so vital to defending American sovereignty and the rights of American workers, in particular, a man named Mike Hethman, who was the senior counsel for the Immigration Reform Law Institute. These are the good guys. These are the guys who are fighting in court to defend American workers and American citizens against Open Borders Incorporated. And he died, I believe, in Maryland of a horrible car accident by a reckless driver. And his girlfriend was also gravely injured and I believe died as well. So the American sovereignty movement, immigration enforcement patriots are mourning his loss. It's important that you know the legacy of so many of these people who fight quietly, who are not on Fox News or the Drudge Report or anywhere else on a daily basis. They're not celebrities, but they do the work quietly of defending our country and defending our freedoms and defending law and order. All three of these men that I have just mentioned, I grieve and mourn, and I want to honor their legacies. And the best way I can do that is to encourage you to look them up if you have not heard of them or don't know them. Mike Hethman, Lloyd Marcus, and Mike Adams, RIP. So after last week and after having my own sort of existential angst about why I do what I do and whether I should do it anymore, I'm back. I can't give up. We can't afford to give up. Did you see what happened over the weekend? It's an extension, of course, of what happened on Bloody Sunday in Denver and what's been happening for the last 60 days. All of these riots, all of this anarchy, of course, is now on the table at that House hearing. You don't need to watch it. You can listen to and read, actually, Bill Barr's prepared testimony. It tells you everything you need to know. We do not need to go over the well-worn territory of how the Russia collusion narrative was a complete hoax, how the Democrats have exploited every avenue to obstruct this presidency from before day one. Blah, bitty, blah, blah, blah. Right? You can watch that on the rest of the cable news if you want to. I've got other things I want to talk about. And I'd mentioned on the Facebook live stream before it was mysteriously interrupted, broadcast interrupted. That is now going to be my new joke line, broadcast interrupted, because that's what happened as I was talking about the events of this morning. President Trump's tweet highlighting the dissident doctors press conference yesterday, talking about the effectiveness of hydroxychloroquine as a treatment and cure for the Wu flu virus, right? All of a sudden, my Facebook live stream got mysteriously interrupted. I was highlighting the Newsweek article, which has not been censored yet, printed on July 23rd. So that was 5 days ago, by a Yale professor of epidemiology at the Yale School of Public Health. which is titled, "The Key to Defeating COVID-19 Already Exists. We Need to Start Using It." Guess what he's talking about? Hydroxychloroquine. When this inexpensive oral medication is given very early in the course of illness, Professor Risch of Yale School of Public Health writes in Newsweek, before the virus has had time to multiply beyond control, it has shown to be highly effective. Conspiracy theory. Especially when given in combination with the antibiotics azithromycin or doxycycline and the nutritional supplement zinc. Well, this is exactly what the Nigerian female doctor was talking about in detail yesterday at the press conference, which is now censored on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram. Why is that? Why is that? If these words and this testimony comes out of the mouth of a doctor who is either neutral on Donald Trump or for Donald Trump, all of a sudden, it is a public health threat. It constitutes a public health menace that must be censored and banned. It is verboten. However, if it is a Yale public health expert in a liberal news rag like Newsweek, it's okay. For now. For now. Donald Trump Jr.'s Twitter account has reportedly been suspended over him sharing excerpts from the dissident press conference. And of course, the Breitbart tweet with the Periscope, which I had retweeted as well as commented on while it was live yesterday afternoon, is also gone. But you can go to the Breitbart page. Let's see if I'm allowed to share this on the screen. Let's see if I can share it without getting interrupted. Let's see. You guys see that? Let's see if I can share the audio of it. Let's turn this all the way up.
I want to know who is sponsoring that study. I want to know who is behind it. Because there is no way I can treat 350 patients and counting, and nobody is dead, and they all did better. And then you're going to tell me that you treated 20 people, 40 people, and it didn't work. I'm a true testimony. So I came here to Washington, D.C. to tell America, nobody needs to get sick. This virus has a cure. It is called hydroxychloroquine, zinc, and Zithromax. I know people want to talk about mask. Hello? You don't need mask. There is a cure. I know they don't want to open schools. No, you don't need people to be locked down. There is prevention and there is a cure. And let me tell you something. All you fake doctors out there that tell me, oh yeah, I want a double-blinded studies. I just tell you, please sounding like a computer, double-blinded. I don't know whether your chips are malfunctioning, but I'm a real doctor. I have radiologists, we have plastic surgeons, we have neurosurgeons like Sanjay Gupta saying, oh yeah, it doesn't work and it causes heart disease. Let me ask you, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, hear me. Have you ever seen a COVID patient? Have you ever treated anybody with hydroxychloroquine and they died from heart disease? When you do, come and talk to me. Because
I love this woman. I love this woman. Can she please be the Surgeon General? Right? So you can't watch that if it's retweeted off of a Breitbart tweet. So this morning I woke up to all of that, and you, I'm sure, all did too. All right. And yet we have a certain subset of the conservative punditocracy which wants to convince us somehow that we are still better than China when it comes to protecting dissident speech. Okay? We get tweets from the State Department condemning Chinese censorship, right? We get Con Inc. think tank forums and floor speeches by Senate Republicans assailing the human rights record of other countries. I don't know about you, but I don't want to hear it anymore. Okay? I don't care right now about oppressed people in far off lands. We're being oppressed. Our rights are being oppressed. We try to hold a police rally, and the police won't protect us. Armed citizens try to protect their property, their homes, their families. They get attacked by violent mobs with pickaxes and longboards. Who's protecting our international human rights? Where's the resolutions from Senate Republicans? I'm in solidarity, sure, with people in Hong Kong, okay? But right now, my immediate concern is America. This is what it means to be America first. Us first. Care about our people. Care about law-abiding, peaceful people. We can't drive in our cars. We can't try to get through obstructing anarchists without having guns pulled on us. You can't be a journalist who tells the truth about the public health industrial complex, about Black Lives Matter, about the anti-white, anti-American institutions in this country and the simps in Con Inc. who carry water for them without having your life threatened, without being subjected to doxing, without your job being under fire. And I've talked about it before, and I will continue to talk about it because now we've got all of these phonies. Darren Beattie calls them Populism Inc., right? It's the new Inc. People pretending that they share our values. People pretending they support us. And a lot of the young people in the America First movement, of course, have joked about the bane of boomers. I wish it was just Fox News boomers that are the problem, right? There is now a group, oh my gosh, let me see if I can pull up this beyond cringe. The young people who are watching me will know what I'm talking about. Gen Z GOP. This is the new, these are like the Lincoln Project wannabes. I got to play this for you. Hold on. And, I know I've got older people in my audience who are not always on top of this, but they know that these people are phonies. They know that something is wrong. Okay. Let's see. Hang on. I'm my own producer. Let's see if I can get this cringe. I said it's beyond cringe. Okay. We're in like wince, blench, recoil territory now, is what I said. Hold on. Here we go. Listen to this. This is the new faction of the GOP.
We've grown up in a wounded country
and faced daunting obstacles.
Some we've overcome. Others have only worsened.
Over the past few years, our political system has proven broken.
Our party hijacked.
Our values forgotten.
As Republicans, we believe that the party of Lincoln is worth saving from its current flirtation with authoritarian populism. But we
Whoa. Let's stop right there. Authoritarian populism. Do you know why there are federal agents standing in front of Abe Lincoln? It's because the thug animals of Antifa and BLM had spray painted the entry to Abe Lincoln with disgusting graffiti. Okay? It's not like we're just sending all these jackboots out there to enforce authoritarian populism. God, these people are just, okay, let's go. Let's continue.
We do not seek to return to the politics of the past.
We seek to present a new vision, A vision that does not cave to the polarized choices of left and right, but one that embraces nuance, freedom, and opportunity.
Nuance, right? Because this is really going to appeal to all the unhinged, insane, low IQ barbarians out there seeking a new alternative. What we really need is nuance, because this will appeal to the people who are spray painting all cops are bastards and F cops and beheading statues of Jesus and Mary and Junipero, Sarah and Christopher Columbus. What we really need are these dulcet toned, three-piece suited, young, civil virtue signalers to rescue America. What we really need, America, is nuance.
We strive to be a GOP that pursues climate change solutions, that harness American innovation, and create green energy jobs.
Green energy jobs, because, you know, there hasn't been anyone else out there crusading to spend billions of dollars on windmills that are chopping up birds to save the planet. We really need this new, brave, moral alternative.
A GOP that can embrace Americans of all backgrounds, proudly proclaim that...
Wait, let's play that again.
A GOP that can embrace Americans of all backgrounds, proudly proclaim that Black Lives Matter.
Yes! This is what we need, because there aren't enough Senate Republicans who've simped to Black Lives Matter. It's not enough that we had dozens of Republicans joining Nancy Pelosi to remove Confederate imagery and statues from the Capitol. It's not enough that we had Ted Cruz putting on his Instagram the deification and the martyrdom of George Floyd. That's right. Ted Cruz posting a picture of George Floyd sprouting angel wings. We haven't had enough of that. We really need to have a GOP that more bravely embraces Black Lives Matter than it already is. Oh, yes. And same-sex marriage, you know, because the Republican Party and the likes of TPUSA haven't embraced drag queens and gay marriage strongly enough.
And work to combat injustice and inequality.
A GOP that engages private-public partnerships to provide...
Yes. Oh, yes. Let's go back to this. This guy. The guy who endorsed Antifa. Right? This is the new leader of a new GOP that's going to bring us all together. Voices of decency. Real winners here. Real winners here. Aren't you just ready to empty your pocketbooks and donate to this new GOP?
A GOP that engages private-public partnerships to provide accessible healthcare.
Private-public health partnerships. Healthcare is successful. Do you know what this means? Public-private partnerships. Boondoggles, rackets between big business and big government that will join together in the age of COVID to form massive armies of snooping contact tracers. Innovation. I'm sure that Jared and Ivanka will be leading this charge. This is the public partnership. Do these people even know what the hell they are talking about? Like, who is scripting this for them? Because you know it's not these morons, right? It's their big business donors. Private health insurance partnerships.
As a better alternative, a GOP that engages private-public partnerships to provide accessible healthcare as a better alternative to the fiscal infeasibility of Medicare for all.
A GOP that embraces strong diplomacy and multilateral institutions to promote the global good and protect national interests.
Global good. Well, if that's all you need to know, right? These people are not America first, okay? Every once in a while, they'll pretend they are, but at least the more honest among them will show their true colors. They are for the global good. Well, who do they show? A picture of George Herbert Walker Bush, the Bush family, America Last, which, by the way, the Bush Foundation has spent the last 4 months pimping China, right? Pimping Chinese research, opening up Houston to Chinese spies. These are the multilateral organizations that the GOP has failed to nurture better relationships with. The global good. The global good.
Institutions to promote the global good and protect national interests, not self-interest.
Not self-interest. Not self-interest.
To promote the global good and protect national interests, not self-interest.
For God's sakes, God forbid that America have its own self-interests. Why, that would be xenophobic and racist, and it's actually anti-American to put America's self-interests first.
GOP that values the contributions of immigrants.
Oh, yes, here we go. Here we go. Play the stock clip of the naturalization ceremony. Because, you know, the Republican Party needs to be for, say it with me, legal immigration, and against, say it with me, illegal immigration. And it is absolutely morally reprehensible to talk in any manner about limiting legal immigration and legal foreign workers in any way. We must absolutely distance ourselves from any such hateful, vile, white supremacist rhetoric.
While pursuing bipartisan reform.
Bipartisan reform! Oh, there he is.
While pursuing bipartisan
Marco Rubio, the poster boy for bipartisan reform, which, of course, is a euphemism for, say it with me, type it in comments with me, illegal alien amnesty, pardons, a pass, a blanket pass, a redux of 1986, and every other bipartisan reform that has served the selfish self-interests, not of America, not of American workers, not of American citizens, but of big business and its insatiable appetite for cheap foreign labor.
Reform and modernizing border security.
And the GOP that promotes free trade and actually fights for fiscal responsibility.
Yes, because we need more earmarks reform, and we need to get rid of the Ex-Im Bank. And this fiscal responsibility, we haven't had it for a half century, and the GOP spends like drunken sailors and stuff, but we'll really get fiscal responsibility now.
We need to focus more on expert commentary that provides nuance.
Experts from AEI will save us. We haven't had enough experts on cable news because instead we just have all of these talking heads they're the grifters. And if only we had more people from AEI, we wouldn't be in the mess that we're in.
Provides nuance, not one-dimensional talking heads who seek profits at the expense of deceit.
Oh, the deception, my friends. Now, this is what you need to understand, okay? You see this? You see the fake triangulation that's going on here? Let me explain this to you. So these Lincoln Project wannabes from Gen Z GOP, they're not the same as Charlie Kirk from TPUSA. He's a bad guy. Okay, if you have been following closely and paying attention closely, you know that the true, authentic America First movement, right? The Groypers, the America First kids who have been slimed by the likes of TPUSA are now being ripped off and appropriated by the people who smeared them. And we all know, those of us who've been paying attention, who see all of the clips of these characters and how they truly feel, ultimately they are on the same side as Gen Z GOP, the Lincoln Project, all of these open borders operators. They're all on the same team. That's what they want you to miss. Okay? I call them all out. I don't care. All of these people. They're all phonies. But here they are trying to distance themselves, disavow, and separate themselves from the same people who benefit from the same revenue streams, the same big business establishment, GOP, Con Inc. revenue streams. They're all the same.
At the expense of a deceived and polarized people.
Once informed, we can find balance to formulate policies that consider
This guy is the one that really annoys me. What the hell are they talking about? Okay, they show this. What is this? What is this even from? Okay, the truth about the anarchy since George Floyd over the last 60 days is one of white people getting beaten up by black people and white liberal Antifa. Okay, what is this? Polarized, right? As if it's some sort of passive thing and there's some equal playing field between the people who are being pummeled and beaten and shot at and the people who are the instigators.
We can find balance to formulate policies that consider the long-term implications for our generation.
We're launching Gen Z GOP because our generation needs a palatable alternative to the political left, which today's GOP has failed to provide.
It's up to our generation to do better for our party and our country.
With a new approach, we can truly achieve greatness in our country.
Join us.
I can't even. I can't do that. Anyway, I tweeted about it, and these twits, these spineless twits, love the attention because they're all about the clout, but they couldn't even tag my name on their tweet. They're going after Nick Fuentes, of course, and many others in America First who have been mocking them justly and ruthlessly since the debut of their manifesto. But these are the types of people who think that they're going to take over in, post-Trump America on the right. And if other young people and their parents and their parents don't speak up about this now, this is what we're going to get. The next generation of Mitt Romneys and Lindsey Grahams and Martha McSally's and Cory Gardner's. That is the future of the Republican Party. R.I.P. Okay? This is beyond pale pastels, okay? This is like total oatmeal mush. Just anyway, I wanted to play that for you because it just really floors me. There are many brave people out there who are now standing up and fighting back. And they are fed up with the complete ineffectual impact that hundreds of millions of dollars poured into DC-based conservative institutions have had. Right? You all know the famous retort. What have conservatives conserved? Windmills, gay marriage, and open borders. It's not the direction that these establishment leftists and rightists disagree on, right? It's only the speed. That's the cliche. A lot of cliches are true. A lot of them are true. I wanted to make this a free-for-all, and I do have a lot of other things I want to talk about. In the aftermath of the Bloody Sunday in Denver, I faced yet another set of renewed attacks and calls to disavow me. And it is of a piece with the Gen Z GOP, because this is the same petri dish out of which these operators are grown. Somebody says Ted Cruz is horrible, fire them all. And I actually have more to say about Ted Cruz, and it's related. But let me get to this piece because I want to sort of read through it with you and respond. And you know, it's always a quandary because you never want to give these trolls more oxygen than they deserve. But on the other hand, it is an object lesson. And I think it's worth pointing out because you're going to see this template played over again and again. And most importantly, it's not just about me. All right. It's about the cancel culture imperative that these people have to eliminate their competition and threats to their business models in such a way that they are collaborating with our enemies, the people that they say they're fighting against, but in fact are fighting with on the same side. Let me see if I can bring this up. Guest commentary. We're going to go through this. Guest commentary. Conservatives have moral duty to disown Michelle Malkin, alt-right. This was printed on July 22nd. I believe it was the very day after Bloody Sunday, in the pages of the liberal rag known as the Denver Post. The Denver Post, whose coverage of the riots in Denver, Aurora, Seattle, Portland, everywhere else, have followed the same false template narrative of peaceful protests being set upon by jackboot federal agents, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, let's go through this. Coloradans are no strangers to rallies around the state capitol. On Sunday, pro-police ralliers in Civic Center were confronted by raucous counter-demonstrators devolving into intimidation, shoving matches, and punches. And by the way, the author of this piece is a young snot named Andrew Strutman, who is identified as owner and partner of Saratoga Strategies and a longtime Republican political consultant in Colorado. I want to show you a picture of this long-time consultant, as if he's some sort of veteran. Hold on. Yeah. All right, let me get out of this for a second. I'm going to show you this. Long-time consultant, a real veteran of the GOP political scene. This guy here on the left, okay? This guy on the left, okay? This guy on the left penned a piece in the Denver Post saying that I need to be disavowed. Andrew Stretman. All right, let's go back to the piece because I can't stand to look at this little snot nose's face. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am. All right, Mr. Andrew Stretman. I don't know what he sounds like. That's how I picture his voice sounding, okay? Okay, so anyway, there's this obligatory acknowledgement that what happened on Sunday was terrible. What they did was unequivocally vile. Okay, hold on. Now, it doesn't say but there, right? But this is what happens with every one of these Con Inc. types. Oh, they'll make the obligatory condemnation. But. The rally was, however, a painful reminder that Malkin remains a part of the conservative movement in Colorado. Wah. It is morally unconscionable that she has a platform within conservative circles, including speaking at this rally, because God forbid that I be invited to speak at a pro-police rally, because I am so toxic and radioactive and beyond reprehensible. Notice that he has none of these types of words for the leftists, right? It's just unrestrained contempt for vile Michelle Malkin. Malkin was once within mainstream conservatism. She formed early conservative blogs, while you were still a zygote, and was a regular speaker for groups like Young America's Foundation and Conservative Political Action Conference, drawing crowds with spunk and provocative rhetoric. Spunk. Yeah, you wouldn't know what that was if a drone dropped it on your little snot head. Spunk. Until recently, she called herself an immigration restrictionist, someone who believes in limiting legal immigration as well as ending its illegal form. She has since moved on to the fever swamps of the alt-rights. Unseemly elements like white nationalists, right-wing street gangs, and white supremacists. And then it goes on to retread every other Con Inc. smear piece about me, Nick Fuentes, the Groyper movement, what happened at Charlottesville, the disgraceful challenging of Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and Dan Crenshaw, that traitor who sides with Nancy Pelosi on removing every last Confederate statue and image in this country, and Donald Trump Jr. trolling the Q&A with questions about white identity and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, which, as I said in my AFBAC speech, which anybody can watch through michellemalkin.com, where I've embedded my entire speech as well as all of my co-speakers, I said is a completely meaningless phrase now. Anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. This reminds me that a great conservative columnist who happens to be white, who happens to be male, who happens to be unapologetic in his criticisms of George Soros and NGOs that are destroying our country, John Cass, is now under fire by the Chicago Newspaper Guild for purveying what the Guild calls anti-Semitic conspiracy theories regarding the election of district attorneys across this country who are sabotaging law and order and targeting law-abiding people exercising their Second Amendment rights while they coddle criminals. This is the anti-Semitic conspiracy theorizing that civil and morally just and morally superior Republicans like Andrew Stretman are condemning. This is what he's talking about, people. And when you see all of this pablum, all of these smears, just remember what they're really after. They're after silencing our speech, silencing our investigative journalism, silencing and exposing and critiquing the very forces and identifying their money flow and their real agenda and their real allegiances. This guy has a real problem with me calling myself mommy, which I am. I'm a mom of 2 kids. I feel very maternal instincts when it comes to protecting grassroots conservatives, especially young people who have been targeted by Con Inc., establishment organizations, and all of their hundreds of millions of dollars. And there he goes. He says, she described the term anti-Semite as a useless, meaningless term, and everybody knows it. Well, everybody does know it. The ADL made it useless. The SPLC made it useless. And so did all of their Con Inc. enabling tools, who hurl it at anyone who has even the mildest criticism. Right? You all know what I'm talking about. He goes on to list my other sins. Senator Cory Gardner was labeled a Hispanderer. Oh my God, disavow me now. I called out Cory Gardner, who's the biggest enabler of amnesty in Colorado, who has coddled and promoted illegal alien dreamers, and who's played both sides of border security and immigration enforcement, just like his spiritual godfather, John McCain. But oh my God, I do not deserve a place on a stage of a rally honoring police because I called Cory Gardner a Hispanderer. By the way, Saratoga Consultants. Is it possible that they're doing work for the Gory, I called him Gory Gardner. That's what I'm going to call him from now on. Cory Gardner. Gory Gardner. Because you know what? When he loses in November, it's going to be pretty bloody and pretty gory. Yes, I think it's entirely possible that Andrew Strutman of Saratoga Strategies is doing work for Cory Gardner. I'm going to see if I can find that out. In any case, his owner and partner of his firm, Vincent Siligayi, I don't know, this guy, he looks just like him, started his political career as a volunteer for none other than John McCain's 2008 presidential campaign. All right, so calling Cory Gardner a Hispanderer is a crime. Speaking to the Groypers, this guy writes, that's me, quote, very confident that you, the Light Brigade, the America First Brigade, are well positioned to do what so few other grassroots revolts and rebellions have succeeded in doing. I believe in you. I honor your charge. I honor your mission. I absolutely do. I doubly avow that. I triply, quadruply, quadrillion, gazillion avow the encouragement that I gave to the America First movement at AFPAC and since then. This was not half praise of a few dissident conservatives against mainstream views on immigration. It was a full-throated embrace of white dominance over minorities. This guy goes on to fume that I headlined a pro-ICE rally and that in my Colorado speeches, I did not mention my role with Groypers or the, quote, alt-right. I'm not a member of the alt-right. Newsflash, you little troll. I'm the mainstream. I am mainstream. The vast majority of people who call themselves Groypers are mainstream. It's not about white dominance over minorities. It's about pushing back against mass migration and demographic change. It's about rejecting this idea that we have nothing wrong with the complete overflow of third world refugees and foreign workers from India and China, unrestricted, coming into this country and changing every aspect of our lives. That's not an embrace of white dominance over minorities. That is an embrace of America first and meaning it. right? So this guy says somehow that I'm duplicitous because I don't mention in my Colorado speeches the role I have. I am an open book. And if someone invites me to a rally to talk about police, I'm going to talk about police. If somebody invites me to talk about medical tyranny and the sneaky big pharma water carriers are trying to undermine parents' ability to exempt themselves from vaccine mandates, that's what I'm going to talk about, as I did just a couple of weeks ago on the steps of the Capitol in Denver, standing next to Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the left, as well as many parents of all ideologies and backgrounds, left, right, center, libertarian, all united in support of defending parental sovereignty. Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about. Who's dishonest? This guy is dishonest. This guy is duplicitous. His goal is to protect the people who hire him and contract with him on their campaigns, electing stupid Republicans who are selling us down the river and helping flush our country down the toilet. What message, Andrew Strutman, owner and partner of Saratoga Strategies, says, does it send to minority Coloradans that a conservative darling sidles up to those who believe in racist violence? This guy, through his advocacy of people like John McCain and Cory Gardner and Ted Cruz and Dan Crenshaw as the real conservatives, is the one who sidles up to and promotes and perpetuates the racist violence of Antifa and BLM and Soros NGOs. Any conservative leader, he writes, associated with Malkin at this or other rallies must permanently distance themselves from her. You know, how much more disavowing do these people want? Okay. And this guy thinks he can accomplish and succeed at what the likes of Ben Shapiro failed at over the last 8 months. They failed. I'm still here. I'm still talking. People stand with me on opposing mass migration, on standing against these mobs. And I said that I was taking a break from doing this type of thing, but I have not stopped using my platforms in every way possible to defend America first. This little snot-nosed fly, this little fruit fly, fruity fruit fly, thinks that he's going to cancel me. Oh, but then, of course, he disavows cancel culture, right? Because that's what they all do. This is not parroting left-wing cancel culture, he concludes, but is a legitimate matter of decency. Decency, right? These are the decent people. The big tent of conservatism must have tent flaps, and racists and anti-Semites must be kicked out with moral clarity. Conservatives who protest when some deem them all to be racist should be determined to root out actual racists and allies like Malkin, who have tried to subvert our movement. This guy's movement is a bowel movement, okay? He is a big bowel movement, right? Choose sides, people. This is what we're up against, okay? When he specifically talks about right-wing street brawlers, you know who he's talking about? A lot of the young, patriotic, brave, strong, proud men, proud boys that I've been honored to meet all across this country. And the likes of Ben Shapiro, working with the Daily Beast and Jared Holt, have done everything in their power to smear those young men. They were right. They saw what we see now coming before anybody else did. Gavin McInnes has been deplatformed everywhere. The Proud Boys, the members, the chapter leaders all across this country, many of them have had their jobs threatened, their lives threatened. These people know nothing about these young men and their love of their families, the love of their neighborhoods, the love of their countries. And this brings me to Ted Cruz. And this shows you everything you need to know about this impulse, this compulsion that these people have to virtue signal before leftists and intellectuals, and to be so willing to throw their own people under the bus. Let me bring up this video for you. This is from a podcast. I believe it's Michael Knowles' podcast. Hold on. Let me get this up.
Opinion, which is that the core left and the core right, who haven't become insane, have to realize that they have more interest in each other than they do in their own wings. Right? And so the idea is, if you think, we have a word in Yiddish called the starker. The starker is the muscle. If the left sees Antifa as its muscle, right? And the idea is that the right sees the Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer or some far right group.
And by the way, no one on the right sees the Proud Boys. They're bigoted idiots, and it's just a minute.
Antifa is a bunch of lunatics.
But here's a difference just in the political world, and I get that you're coming from the academic and investment world and podcast world.
Yeah.
But I am more than happy. As far as I know, I've never met a Proud Boy. I think they're bigoted morons. My colleagues, if you had a Democratic senator sitting here, none of them will condemn Antifa. So I'll condemn those guys. Those are not my guys.
Well, you don't have a senator. You have a guy who's never going to run for the Senate. I'll condemn Antifa.
Great. Yeah. Wonderful. And we are agreed with that. And I'm against anyone who's bigoted or violent.
What we're trying to do here is...
You know, I helped this guy out when he was a Tea Party candidate, when the establishment GOP wanted to eliminate him as competition. But he went to Washington and he became one of them, Ted Cruz. How dare you? Shame on you. Shame on you. For the approbation of some intellectual dark web guy and for Ben Shapiro's outfit, you unsolicited will smear every last Proud Boy as a bigoted moron. You're a bigoted moron, Ted Cruz. Screw you. These brave men put their bodies on the line while Ted Cruz and all of the conservative Inc. punditocracy urge people to get out there and fight for America and stand up for your rights. What have you done? Has he been to any one of these rallies? Has he faced down these people? Has he put his body on the line? Bigoted morons. You're a bigoted moron. Shame on you. I know Proud Boys who've raised money for their local communities and helped out with local EMTs and formed fraternities of faith. Some of these Proud Boys probably even voted for Ted Cruz, and they probably regret it deeply, as I regret my past advocacy for this man. I would say that he owes them an apology, but it would be hollow. It would be a faux apology. He wouldn't mean it. He doesn't mean the things he says. He seeks approbation from the very people who seek to destroy us. Go stand in front of that mural of George Floyd with his angel wings. That's disgraceful. Disgraceful. Ted Cruz, smearing the Proud Boys, who were right about the anarcho-tyranny that we now face. And who do we have left to depend on? Because we can't depend on police officers who work for chiefs, who work for Soros, Antifa, and Black Lives Matter. We can't depend on federal agents for that matter. There's not enough of them. Oh, we're going to send another 50 more into Portland, where people are allowed to firebomb and chainsaw through fences around the federal courthouse there. It's not enough. It's too little. It's too late. We were warned. Not only do the Proud Boys and Gavin McInnes deserve an apology, they deserve medals for trying to save this country when it was still salvageable. That's how I feel right now. I'm very, very black-pilled about this. And every once in a while, you see something that cheers you up, a video of people fighting back, a video of people mouthing back at Black Lives Matter like I did on Sunday when their first phalanx of women came up to us and manhandled us. There are not enough of us. It's too late. It's how I feel about it. And when you've got people like this man in the Senate representing Republicans in Texas, oh, well, we'll have Texas. Texas is still red. No, too late. It's too late. And I got to laugh at all of the conning pundits now who are pulling up their roots in the coastal bubbles and thinking that they'll find a safe space in Texas. Ha! Too late. I want to play you one other thing. And then, you know what? I said I was going to make this a free-for-all. So I will take questions after I get through this extraordinary interview I did with a pathetic liberal podcast host now. He's a former talk show host on one of the conservative stations here in Denver, where many of my friends are still talk show hosts. He had a falling out with them, and so now is sort of cast out into the wilderness. And I was willing to talk to anybody last week about what happened in Denver, and I felt sorry for this guy. And so I said I would do his podcast. I had seen him over the years. He came to one of my screenings for an investigative show that I did when I was in tour. Came through Denver and did it. And so it started out civil, and we started out talking about what he said he wanted to talk about, which was Denver. But what he really wanted to do was basically audition for MSNBC or the Lincoln Project. In his name, and he was also surfing off of the vibes of that Denver Post piece that I just deconstructed for you. So that other guy was Andrew Struckman. This guy is Craig Silverman. And he didn't even have the balls to just say, I invited you to come on here to talk about the police rally. But what I really want to talk about is this. Are you okay with talking about this? Which, of course, I am. I'm happy to talk about any of these things with pretty much anybody. And in fact, I had been on another talk show, the Mandy Connell show, on one of the big talk stations, KOA. And somebody asked me about my relationship with the Proud Boys. I said I was very proud to have stood by them. I've written columns about the persecution that they faced, the prosecution and conviction, unjust conviction of two Proud Boys in New York who were convicted even though the supposed Antifa victims hated the police so much that they would not even participate or testify on the witness stand. Those men are in jail despite that. So I talked about that on her show, but no, this guy fashioned himself some sort of whistleblower exposing the truth that everybody wanted to cover up. So I'm going to see if I can share this screen with you. And I apologize in advance. This guy's voice is really, really hard to take. So if you need some sort of self-torture or you're trying to wake up, then listening to him is a really good way to do it. Let me see if I can find it. Where is it? Podcast. Let's see. So yeah, this thing is not even on air anywhere. It's just on his website, which is fine. I mean, I'm just saying, nobody really pays attention to this guy. And the only reason they did is because I went on his show. All right. So let me just set it up for you. We had pre-taped an interview, and then he inserted it into commentary where he was going on and on and on about America First and Fuentes and Groypers and blah, blah, blah. And then without telling me that was the intro, got into it with me about the police rally. And then, I guess needed to work up his courage and spine to confront me. And here it is.
So maybe it's about time they stood up. Maybe it's about time they had adequate security and adequate force. Did you see that? They knew that there were 1,000 of them. They knew that they were going to shut us down, right? They said it, that they were going to do it. They could have drawn the line right here and protected not only their own men, but us. Like if there was ever a time to do it, it would have been Sunday afternoon.
I've seen
they should be ashamed, and you should be outraged. I know. Don't you believe in it? You're an absolutist when it comes to free speech, aren't you? Like if you can't,
I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Absolutely. I don't believe in cancel culture. I believe in confront it with your own ideas, and that's what we're doing right here, Michelle. Okay. And just as you had people tell you shouldn't come on with me, who were those people?
Oh, I hear things from all sorts of people, and in any case, it doesn't matter. I'm here, right?
We come out, right? And people say I shouldn't have you on, but I have you on.
And so people also said, like this police chief said, don't have your event. You know, is this the way the First Amendment works now? The mob gets to decide who exercises our First Amendment rights or not.
Sure.
Unacceptable.
Right. But let's talk about social media.
Protect us.
You are a master. Let's cool it down to let me express how I feel about you since you talked about me. I have mixed feelings. I admire you so much because your intellect is amazing. Your composure on Fox News through the years and other media outlets, including my show, there's nobody quite like you. You're columnizing. I write columns for the Colorado Sun. I'm pretty proud of it, but you are prolific as an author. You've developed websites that, what have you sold? 2 different large groupings to Salem Media. You are extremely successful in modern media, and I admire you. I put my career into practicing law. I do this as a sidelight, but am I right? You're an amazing entrepreneur. In fact, you put that as part of your Twitter handle.
Well, I appreciate that. I'm proud of that. And, you know, I'm glad for the words, but my recollection from last fall is that you pretty much disparaged the Stand With ICE rallies that I was doing and boiled it down simply to I was trying to sell books. First of all, I thought
it was deliberately provocative. Let me just say what I said. I didn't like Tay Anderson using a bullhorn because that's what we were talking about, drowning out speech so that Michelle Malkin or myself can't be heard. He does it in better ways, but I hated that about Sunday because you guys had the stage and they tried to drown you out. That's not productive. So
they did drown us out. They pushed us out.
Right.
I mean, I didn't get to say a single word.
But wasn't it really, just to be honest, wasn't it a Salem Trump event more than really Back the Blue? Because didn't the Back the Blue Facebook page say, we want nothing to do with this rally? And part of it was the featured speakers were corporate and Chuck and Julie and Stephen Tubbs was going to be there. But the big name is Michelle Malkin. You have a gazillion social media followers. But you're a lightning rod, and I want to get to it because none of my colleagues with access to a microphone will talk to you about Nick Fuentes and the Groypers, and I've watched your Twitter feed, and at the end of it, after you're scared to death in my work hood, I speak to you from that neighborhood right now, I was scared for you. But then you start throwing shout-outs to the Groypers, and boy, that pissed me off, because the Groypers are some Jew-hating sort of people, and I don't like that, Michelle Malkin. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I knew you were going to get to this, and I'm so grateful to the young Groyper kid and his mom who rescued us from that mob. You know nothing about Groypers, because if you did, you wouldn't be so flippant in smearing all of them. And the guilt by association tactic, I think, is something else that I would think that somebody who fashions themselves a First Amendment and free speech champion would thoroughly reject.
Nick Fuentes, I spent my morning.
You asked me a question and now you're interrupting me.
I'm sorry, but you said that I don't know anything about the Groypers.
Yeah.
One, I watched Nick Fuentes use his switchblade against Ben Shapiro, confront him on the street.
I just have to stop it right there. Oh, I'm going to let it go on. I hope you're finding all of you this very instructive. Okay. So if you watched my live stream of the Back the Blue rally, you know that after the violence erupted on the stage, that we were led out the back, and then there was pretty much no way to safely get from the plaza to where our car was. And it just so happened that there was this young kid and his mom, mainstream Colorado Republican conservatives, who had their wagon there, and we were able to get in the back. Patrick Neville, who's the state Senate minority leader, was with me, and a couple of others. We squeezed into the back. It was almost cinematic, right? This getaway. They were the sweetest mom and son that, you could ever meet or envision. And I feel like it was like a godsend. I mean, I know that sounds a little bit melodramatic, but it was just so providential that they happened to be there. And we were able to get in the car and not have to walk the 3 blocks from the Civic Center, past the Capitol and in between this, vile homeless encampment where many of these people have gathered. And this guy immediately jumps to, well, I don't like them. I don't like them, Michelle Malkin. And then immediately, right, we're talking about Nick and his funny switchblade routine. All right, so let's continue this.
He didn't use the switchblade in person, but the imagery was something else. I've seen the collected work of Nick Fuentes. If you're telling me that you're not...
Yeah, so again, he may have seen it, but he certainly does not comprehend it, right? He's incapable of comprehending what this movement is about, what the messages are about every single night. And all he can do is sputter and speed it and shit about anti-Semitism and racism and blah, 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 blah.
Not associated with Nick Fuentes, and he's not a leader of the Groypers, and was at that Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. I'm just asking you. I saw you give a speech on November 14, 2019 at UCLA where you said, you know what, those Groypers who disrupted Donald Trump Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle, I'm with them. I am with Nick Fuentes. I am with the Groypers. I'm there with VDare and all those people who I worry about being white supremacists and Jew haters. So again, the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, why don't you finish? Because I don't know.
No, I'll give you a chance to respond, but I will tell you that I get worked up over antis.
Okay. So all I can do is just laugh, right? Because he supposedly asked me a question, then starts venting and spewing, and I am about to answer, and he starts venting and spewing again. And all I can do at this point is just laugh.
Fuentes, I am with the Groypers. I'm there with VDare and all those people who I worry about being white supremacists and Jew haters. So again, the floor is yours.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, why don't you finish? Because I don't know.
No, I'll give you a chance to respond, but I will tell you that I get worked up over anti-Semitism. I would think you would. You're married to Jesse Malkin, and you don't play around with anti-Semitism. You don't. What about Kirk Woodland, the producer at CanUS, where you are a featured speaker, etc.? Did you see that a Nazi, an apparent neo-Nazi, was outed, and he had been assigned to be my producer at CanUS? Has there been any discussion in local media about that? Have any of these hosts said word one about a white supremacist in their midst? We need to call.
So you see what's going on here. Like, this guy has access to grind about his employment situation, which I have no idea about, okay? I am not intimately following every last minute of days of our lives featuring Craig Silverman, okay? But he's roped me into this and basically turned me into his therapist, right? What the guy needs is a really good talk therapist, And also maybe a good employment lawyer, like a labor lawyer, right? What do I have to do with all of this? I have no idea about these guys, but all he has to do is say Nazi, Nazi, Nazi.
This out, and you're the one who says you get canceled, but where's my invitation to talk about these things and my fears about anti-Semitism?
Where's my invitation? You're on your own freaking show. Go ahead. Talk about it. Why you need me to talk about it? Right? Wah, 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 wah. Crying, victim. I almost dropped an F-bomb there. Sorry, Mom, Dad. You're watching. It's just so freaking amazing. Amazing. Where's my invitation to talk about it? You haven't stopped talking about it for 5 minutes. Oh my gosh. All right. This is almost over. I know I know all your ears are probably just bleeding to death right now. But again, I find it to be a good object lesson. We'll wrap this up.
Why don't you finish? Because I don't know.
No, I give you a chance to respond, but I will tell you that I get worked up over anti-Semitism. I would think you would. You're married to Jesse Malkin, and you don't play around with anti-Semitism. You don't. What about Kirk Woodland, the producer at CanUS, where you are a featured speaker, etc.? Did you see that a Nazi, an apparent neo-Nazi, was outed, and he had been assigned to be my producer at CanUS? Has there been any discussion in local media about that? Have any of these hosts said word one about a white supremacist in their midst? We need to call this out. And you're the one who says you get canceled, but where's my invitation to talk about these things and my fears about anti-Semitism? Michelle?
Are you done? I mean,
well, you told me to go for it. I took your invitation.
Yeah. So anybody can watch any of my speeches. I'm transparent about everything I do, as I have been for the last 30 years. I'm very proud of the speech I gave at AFPAC, the speech I gave at CPAC, the work that I've done for America First. And, you know, you can characterize and lie about the people that I proudly associate with, refuse to disavow, and people who have sort of higher comprehension levels can read all of this stuff for themselves and judge for themselves. I'm proud that VDare has carried my...
By the way, I just basically called him a dumbass, and I tried to do it in as polite a way as I could, but I cannot help people who do not have the cognitive ability to understand what's going on in this world, right? I can't, you know, you can rant on about the switchblade, but like you can't explain jokes to people who are incapable of understanding them. Am I right? Like, what do you do? I cannot help you.
Anybody can watch any of my speeches. I'm transparent about everything I do, as I have been for the last 30 years. I'm very proud of the speech I gave at AFPAC, the speech I gave at CPAC, the work that I've done for America First. And, you know, you can characterize and lie about the people that I proudly associate with, refuse to disavow, and people who have sort of higher comprehension levels can read all of this stuff for themselves and judge for themselves. I'm proud that VDare has carried my column for 20 years. I'm very, very proud to stand by them in their lawsuit against Colorado Springs. Again, for people who actually truly believe in speech, it's despicable what the city of Colorado Springs did. And I will fight for the rights of freedom of speech, assembly, thought, association, and I do it in a completely transparent manner. So, you know, for you as a white man to call me a supremacist, a racist, all this type of stuff, to bring up my husband, which I'm proud to do myself. We're celebrating 27 years of marriage tomorrow. It's ridiculous to call me the names that you and your associates
I have not. I want to talk to you about that.
And that's all I have to say, because you have a lot of axes to grind about your work situation.
No, I want you to comment on that.
I thought we were going to be talking about, I thought we were going to actually be talking, but you just want to vent.
I said to you, I emailed Jesse the Kirk Woodline material, but you don't want to talk about Kirk Woodline. Okay, goodbye. Good luck to you.
Yeah, luck to you. Luck to you. All right. So that's that. I'm sure everybody is like totally awake now because that was like 10, 12 minutes of nails on a chalkboard. But all those tactics, that's what we have to deal with. All right, let's get him off the screen. Good God. Yeah, a lot of people didn't want me to do that. Many of my friends were like, why are you doing that? But I think it was a useful exercise. First of all, you know, this is the language, the parlance, the vocabulary of generations who are much younger than me in gamer world. But we cannot always operate in easy mode, right? And it was very easy to go on lots of friendly talk shows last week and talk about what happened. But sometimes I do think it's worth it to go and speak with some hostile person. And, you know, you could hear from my comments that I perfectly anticipated that he was going to bring all that crap up and do the whole smear job thing and, you know, try and out Ben Shapiro. And by the way, this guy goes on all weekend on Twitter to tag Lincoln Project, Ben Shapiro, all the usual suspects, links to his podcast. Because, you know, he just like Ted Cruz, is seeking approbation, right? These are the performative avowals and disavowals that now constitute public discourse and debate in this country. And it's ridiculous, right? Everybody is chasing clout. Everybody is trying to gather virtue points, right? Or nuance points, right? Nuance points, like the Gen Z GOP. Well, it can certainly be wearing, and it can be oppressive, and it can be a downer sometimes to be someone who rejects all of that performative gesturing, but it is also liberating, isn't it? Not to have to feel like you have to put on the mask. Isn't that a wonderful metaphor? Right? Because literally and figuratively, what the establishment left and right have become are nannies telling you when and where and how to put on the mask because they told you to. Because everybody else is doing it. Because it's for the global good, the greater good. It's the decent thing to do. We live in incredible times, my friends, between the COVID tyranny and a narco tyranny. It is a real test. It's a test of our faith. It's a test of our beliefs, our principles. It's not an IQ test, okay? That's not what I mean when I talk about how this guy can't comprehend, right? In part, it's a personality test, as I've said too. Do you go along with the crowd, or do you think for yourself? Are you willing to bear the slings and arrows and consequences of standing up against a mob? Are you like Veronica? My daughter's named Veronica. I did a column on this when she was soon after she was born, explaining why I picked that name for her. And if you're Catholic, you know the story that Veronica stood apart from the mob when Jesus was being spat upon and took a cloth and defied the rest of the haters and the cowards, the ones who sat and stood on the sidelines and wouldn't do anything, and showed grace and compassion and wiped the mud and spit off of his face. Which are you? My dad, God bless him, sent me some verses from the book of Daniel, and I'll talk about that in another video, but also another illustration of standing up for your faith, standing up against the mob. It's not enough to know the difference between right and wrong. It's the difference between inaction, complicity, and action. Standing up, rising up. And last week, my faith was tested. I said I needed a break from going out there, doing the kinds of things that I've done willingly and without a care in the world. But we need to be prepared. We need to be organized. We need to know what we're up against. And the things I talked about today, the types of people, the types of operators, enablers, they're every bit as dangerous to us, if not more, than people wearing masks and wielding collapsible batons and Molotov cocktails and IEDs. So I started out by paying tribute, just as a summary for those of you tuned in late, tribute to Mike Adams, Mike Hethman, and Lloyd Marcus. Many of you know who followed me for years that Tuesdays are my column days, and I'm writing a tribute to Mike Adams. If you go on my Instagram, I did a little musical tribute along with my son, which you can watch at Instagram.com/MissTripple And I said that I was going to take questions. So I might have missed them earlier on while I was in full rage mode. But I'll take questions for the next 5 minutes right now. I've got tons of projects that I'm working on. People have asked me, when does the Newsmax show start? Great question. The studio is set up now, and it will be starting very soon. I don't want to say a fixed date, but I will make sure to be announcing the debut date of the show. I'll give you a little scoop right now, which I have not announced. This is a reward for tuning into me. The name of the show is Sovereign Nation. You are going to love it. It's a half-hour show, going to be debuting on weekends on Newsmax. And I try to announce beforehand when I'm doing my regular appearances as guests on other shows. But you can always usually find me on the Greg Kelly Show on Friday nights. And then I also do usually do Thursdays with Chris Salcedo, and earlier in the week, Monday or Tuesdays with John Bachman. All great guys. Please help spread the word about Newsmax, because I know so many of you are so sick and tired of Fox News, with, of course, accepting Tucker Carlson, Lou Dobbs, Laura Ingraham on occasion. You've got choices. You've got alternatives. And I frequently will tweet out the link to where you can find Newsmax on the dial. Just go Newsmax, find TV, and you can find it. So anyway, look out for that. Sovereign Nation with Michelle Malkin, debuting very shortly, very soon on Newsmax on the weekends. Let's see. Chief Trumpster asked me, you saw the video of the doctor promoting hydroxychloroquine in DC. Yeah. If you tuned in to the early part of this live stream, you heard me talk about that. Condemn Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, the entire Silicon Valley galaxy in cahoots with WHO, suppressing the truth. And I talked about the hypocrisy of banning Trump's tweet about it, as well as Donald Trump Jr.'s Twitter account being suspended for sharing it, Breitbart, the tweet being excised from the ether of the internet, at the same time that Newsweek just published a piece 4 days ago from a public health epidemiologist from Yale saying the exact same thing, that hydroxychloroquine is an effective treatment and cure for COVID-19. It's a conspiracy theory if it comes out of the mouths of doctors who support Trump, but it is fine to say it if you are a Yale epidemiologist who is publishing in Newsweek, although I suspect that fairly soon that will be threatened as well. Also, while we're on the subject of dissent from the public health propaganda, I have repinned my tweet, my statement against the Gates vaccine to the top of my Twitter account. That's in protest of all of this censorship of truth-telling and whistleblowing on the Gates vaccine and COVID tyranny. And if you look in my archives on my YouTube channel, you can go back and watch my interview with the authors of Plague of Corruption, which was turned into a documentary called Plandemic by Dr. Judy Mikovits and Kent Heckenlively. They've got a new book coming out on August 12th called The Case Against Masks. Perfectly timed, handy little book with illustrations from Ben Garrison, who also was a target of cancel culture. Terrific book. You can pre-order it. I read through the preview copy. It's fantastic, very helpful, very needed right now. And some of you will have noticed that Sinclair Broadcasting was supposed to air Plandemic, but in the wake of protests and probably a threat to their license, I'm sure, by the powers that be, has decided not to run it. You can still find Plandemic on the Plandemic documentary site, but I highly recommend that you get that book as well by Judy and Kent called Plague of Corruption. I've got a huge list of books that I'm backlogged on reading, as well as videos that I want to watch. And one of them that I noticed recently was that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Apparently debated creepy Alan Dershowitz on vaccines and the law. And if you go to the Children's Defense Fund Twitter, you can find a link to that. I think it's still on YouTube as well. My last recommendation as I close everything out here, we've gone an hour and a half unscripted. It's great to be unleashed. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you share this. It'll be up on the YouTube channel, of course, on the Twitter feed, and I'll link this for my Facebook people who came over as well. My last recommendation is that you be sure to use BitChute. That's where all of my videos are backed up. They've been so great in supporting me on that. And my BitChute channel is just at Michelle Malkin. Make sure to leave comments on Twitter. I will have more guests on in coming weeks, always taking recommendations from you. And I've got tons of projects and investigative fields that I'm working on. A lot of this stuff you'll be seeing covered on my new show, Sovereign Nation, on Newsmax, that you will not be able to see anywhere else. That is my guarantee to you. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.